Hey, Howard here at 82 Maple, and you know what? The veteran hobbyist sawmiller that owned this sawmill originally had some great advice around equipment in this industry, and I'm going to share a little bit of that in a few minutes. And I've decided to add one more piece of due diligence to my little tick list of things that I'm going to do before I purchase any piece of equipment that requires assembly. But first, let's see how this lopsider and shingle maker performs in terms of making those shingles. Well, there you have it, first cuts. And I still need to do a little bit of adjustment. I may add a spring down here. This handle does not stay up even though my adjustment or my wheel is pointing this way like I had explained in a prior video. Clearly a little bit more of an adjustment, and normally Coral would be going along here and picking the shingles off, but she's on the business end of the camera. So, let's jump into this. Hey, if you looked at some of the videos of my EG 100 Wood-Mizer Edger down here, you'll remember some of the trials and tribulations I went through in the assembly process. And you know, the reason I'm bringing this up is I think that both the frustration I had with the assembly of the lopsider and this underscore a couple of things that are happening in this equipment marketplace. Number one, I think that offshoring is probably more prevalent than we would like to think. And so I don't know how that impacts quality control. What I know from personal experience is that it impacts the quality of the assembly manual and some of the other details that might matter to the hobbyist sawmiller. I'll give you an example. One of the most laughable and certainly least frustrating issues with the Wood-Mizer EG100 assembly and operation is that the inch scale down here, so they gave me two scales, an inch scale and a metric scale. So of course I put the inch scale on it. Here we go by 2x4s and all of that stuff. But again, looking closely at this, we know that inches are divided into sixteenths and eighths and quarters. This inch scale is divided into tenths. Not that big of a deal, but that's an indicator of what can happen, in my opinion, due to offshoring. Now, the lopsider that you've seen me assemble in a prior video is advertised as being made in the US. But my question then becomes, what happened here? Because I think it's maybe a question of quality control. When I went to put these bolts in and attach these braces, there was manufacturing debris and paint. So not half of the holes, but probably a quarter of the holes I had to clean up before I could cleanly insert the bolt through it. And then here where the sections join, I had to, on two of these, clean them up with an angle grinder. For me, it was quick and easy. I have an angle grinder, and it was at the ready, but there were pieces that just weren't cleanly cut and needed a little grinding for a clean fit. So those are some of the things that I think can happen, and it's definitely a price-sensitive marketplace. So the quality control for me was one of the issues. The other was, and it's still a bit of a mystery, despite the purchase of an additional $170 adapter to adapt a stock Wood-Mizer lap-sider shingle cutter to the LT15 as opposed to the LT35 and other models that it was designed for, still mystifies me because the shingle maker mechanism does not sit on the sawmill where it should. I've got 5 blocks that you've seen me cutting. There's a 6th one here, but this 6th one, given the only position that this would fit on this sawmill, the blade sits right about here, so I can't get into the cut on the first one. Again, not a big deal, but you know what? In the assembly process, I can tell you what would have been hugely helpful. I'm the last guy in the world that likes to bring up a problem without having a suggestion, at least, for a solution. And what would have been enormously helpful would have been 4 things. Well, actually, 1 thing: photos, and 4 of them. If I had had a photo from the sawyer's view of the final assembled product, and a right side view, and a left side view, and a view from the back end, literally, I could have just about at that point tossed the entire instruction manual and been far less frustrated than I ended up being during the assembly process. So, 2 observations after all of this. I'm sharing these perspectives because I'm hoping that they'll be helpful to you as you go about purchasing and assembling hobbyist sawmilling and related equipment. Number 1, I think that situations like I've encountered with both the Edger and the Lapsider, and previously, honestly, with the Norwood HD 36 mil, do very little to encourage the would-be hobbyist sawmiller that perhaps doesn't have a modest knowledge of all things mechanical. Number 2 comes directly from the prior owner of this sawmill. He said, "Howard, here's the thing. I've purchased equipment over the years from what I believe to be manufacturers with a great reputation. But here's the deal. Many of the products that are on the marketplace are produced by an owner-founder that has a real interest, recognizes their name is literally on the line with each piece of equipment that rolls out. But for a variety of reasons, the original owner-founder will sell. It could be health, it could be financial, or it could be 5 other things. And the new owners come in and they take a look around and say, wow, you know, we can do things so much more efficiently. And the corners start being cut. And sometimes they succeed and sometimes they don't. And so it's not unusual to, in very short order, have a 3rd owner of that company. And here's what this does on a very, very practical level. Way back with the Norwood sawmill, you might remember I did a little video of some of the little things, one of which included a plastic water valve from the water and lubrication tank that comes down with a line that comes down to the saw. And literally with the vibration of the sawmill, that valve assembly would fall out the bottom of the tank. That started happening at the 2-month-old point. I re-drilled the hole. I found an aftermarket valve assembly and installed it. But had the original manufacturer done it and done it right the first time, it would have cost them $1 more versus costing me a trip to town plus the purchase and the effort to rectify the situation. And that's where the title of this video was derived from. The price of the equipment does not necessarily reflect the true purchase price as you look at it over the first year. So I said I was going to share one little extra piece of due diligence that I'm doing to help make my road going forward a little easier. And that is, before I purchase a piece of equipment that needs to be assembled, I'm going to request a copy of the assembly manual and the owner's and operating manual. Most of that stuff is online or can be online if the dealer and the manufacturer choose to make it available. And I'm thinking that's going to help me out a little bit, at least. So no matter, we've got this up and running, and we're going to put these 8 fingers and 2 thumbs to work. We're in the shingle making business, onward and upward. I hope this helps. Leave your comments and your questions down below. Both help me enormously.
Too much fun!